Hey there guys, how's it going? So, I'm pretty happy to say that I've actually cleared out all 13 stages of the Demyx event. It took a little bit of planning, and I was thinking, if you guys were there for my live stream when I did, the day that it came out, I did rounds 1 through 12, and I was like, okay, I don't think I can take out 13, I'm definitely not strong enough, but there should be more Keyblade boosters coming out towards the end of the month. I'm going to go ahead and pick those up and then try it again, and wouldn't you know it, the Starlight Keyblade got a booster, so I would definitely recommend going ahead and picking that up. And this was the setup that I used to take it down. Obviously, it's hard to recommend the generic setup for everyone nowadays, simply because like how much of a difference the traits make to the equation. Basically, I did get lucky to get ground on I think 1, 2, 3, and 4 of the medals that I'm using, and of course, actually, I got lucky enough to get extra attack on my Lexaeus. If you guys remember, forever ago, I pulled that medal, and I got ground on it on the 3 traits that I rolled, and then I was like, okay, I'm going to save these 2 trait rolls. I don't even really know what for I was saving them, but I kept them pretty much all this time, and then did one more YOLO roll and ended up getting extra attack on it. And I was like, okay, this medal will one day be evolved. I just have to have the evolved medals for it. I did decently in last week's PvP. I think I got top 2,000, which I worked pretty hard for. The medals that I've been earning worked quite well towards the fairy stars last week and the other Keyblades. And this happened. Oh, headphone warning, headphone warning, headphone warning. Pulls for the new tickets that we got today. Outside of top 2,000 today, which is probably the best from the daily missions. That's incredible. Another 8. Pull for more of them because it's like, actually can afford to do something. Yes! Woo! What a good pull. Yes! It can really justify me doing some good... I had to run out eventually. Pretty powerful stuff in this game again. Right. I don't know if I want to evolve Lexaeus or if I want to potentially evolve Demyx. Okay. 7 and another 8. So I did get enough tier 8 fairies to evolve him, went ahead and evolved him, and yeah, basically it was like, okay, how do I make this work? So this setup went through a few iterations. I was using Violet at one point on this slot right here to try and get some defensive buffs. The only problem with that is Demyx dispels you when he goes ahead and attacks, therefore any defensive buffs that you put on yourself are more or less meaningless. You can, however, offensively debuff him. So one of the best offensive debuffers in the game is Mrs. Incredible. I was very, very lucky to go ahead and pick her up. Again, the -7 general attack that she casts on all the enemies is so invaluable. That's like, if Master Ava did that as well, Master Ava would be the de facto best defensive medal in the game. Unfortunately, that's not the way things happened, and she gets a more defensive boost to you, and a bit of a PSM debuff to the enemies. Alright, the best PSM debuff currently in the game to enemies as well, but you really do need the general attack debuff. In any case, if you do have Ava, feel free to go ahead and slap her on like slot 1 if you are going to try and replicate this setup. My Foretell era here is here literally just for his, at this point effectively for his 120% guild boost. I was using initially him for his boost and I wasn't having Kari there, but I found that I needed a heal to survive his second hit that he does back on me. And I was like, well, if I'm going to have a heal, I may as well have Kari as well. So, I mean, Era does pretty much all the relevant buffs anyway. Well, he does a lot of the relevant debuffs, but Kari does a couple more buffs, so it was actually good to bring her along. Lexaeus being the main man here, doing so much damage, I was pretty much always going to use him, either on Fairy Stars or on Starlight, and I got so lucky to get ground and extra attack on him. If you don't have, a 7-star ground EA Lexaeus, which I doubt many people do, the new boss, Xemnas, is coming out, well, sorry, it's already out, and, everyone might have their copies awarded for the top 5,000 pretty soon. I did put out a guide on how literally everyone in the game should be able to get that medal, I do assume, or almost everyone in the game should be able to get that medal, so I really hope everyone can try and get a copy of that. Obviously, being a random target medal, it isn't as easy to... it's a bit more difficult, let's say, to try and rely on him for damage against one enemy because, Xemnas deals 4 hits. And you guys were seeing the other day, I had illustrated Diz on my Fairy Stars hitting all over the place. And it was very, very difficult to try and get his hits to land on Demyx. But eventually, I got the 2 out of 4 hits that I needed and was able to clear the stage. Again, you're basically relying on RNG for that if you want to go down that route. Mrs. Incredible, of course, actually does pretty respectable damage, even though she doesn't have even an attack boost skill or any relevant traits whatsoever. I mean, I guess she has strength, sure, but she doesn't have, an attack boost skill or negative ground. Actually, still did very respectable damage. I was very impressed. KHUx 16 at the back here. Obviously, you can use literally any high damaging AoE medal that you have. If you have Riku vs Roxas, that would be even better than KHUx 16. But I had a KHUx 16 which literally just had gauges and HP, so this is not you know, a hyper amazing offensive medal by any stretch of the imagination. It's definitely a good medal, and the cool thing about a lot of these medals is they switch between single and single and all target depending on how many enemies are left, which means that as soon as we clear out the shadows, these things are going to hit much harder. Speaking of that, basically an identical medal here, only of a different attribute. I was lucky enough to get ground on him from my 5 trait rolls, which definitely helped out a lot. And then I'm going ahead and bringing a very, very similar medal again, being Kingdom Hearts 3 Riku EX. Basically identical medal to this, only tier 8 and upright speed. Boy, this was a pretty cool challenge. Anyway, we'll go ahead and explain what's happening here. My setup went through tons of changes. Like I said, I was going to bring Violet instead of KHUx 16 at one point. But if you have, you know, foretellers or any high damaging medals, I really reckon people can get away with this. I don't even have second chance, but if people want to bring in second chance instead, that can definitely happen. I was able to take him out in 3 turns, but if people want to, you know, survive into the 4th, maybe even the 5th, and try and take him out, that's definitely a possibility. The only thing is, the time will definitely catch up with you. So you can see, I'm leading off with Era here, and because Era is not in the correct slot, it does barely any damage at all to Demyx, like less than 6 figures per hit. But it actually does a respectable damage to the outside enemies, which I wasn't really expecting, but definitely happy with how that worked. You can just literally see the difference in defense here of the different enemies. Anyway, then we go ahead and use Kairi. Now again, I only initially wanted to bring Kairi for her healing factor, and I'll explain that in a little bit. But when I saw how much damage she was doing, I was like, wow, that actually really impressed me. My Kairi is obviously fully guilted and has actually negative ground on her as well. It was one of the traits that I rolled, and I was pretty happy with how that turned out. Didn't expect it to do much damage, but I guess the ground really does pay off here, dealing a solid, you know, 3.5 million across the board. Now, big boy like Sayas now, just watch how much damage this thing does. Bang! Nearly 55 million damage. Damn! So awesome. Really, really happy. And obviously, like, the stronger players in the game are laughing at me right now, but I was extremely impressed with that damage off that medal. And again, lucky enough to get extra attack on it. I think I made a pretty solid investment upgrading it. And hopefully this thing will let me, you know, earn more tier 8 tickets in the future. So, I don't know, I was like, you know, don't just hold on to your tickets forever. I'm actually going to use them and evolve this medal right here. So, it's going to come in and hit twice. Initially, I was saying my setup changed. Initially, I had Anti-Form Sora in the slot where Kairi is now, trying to use Lexaeus 3 times. But I found that, well, again, I'll explain why I needed to cure in a little bit, and that'll probably make sense why I switched. And again, Kairi did respectable damage. Okay, same. Mrs. Incredible does about 20 million damage there, very respectable. And again, KHUx 16 there just for the damage. Now, KHUx 16 doesn't ignore counters, but every other medal I've used up to this point either adds to the counter or ignores it, so I was free to use basically one attack there. It's only going to decrease the red counters on the shadows by 1, and only decreases the blue counters on Demyx by 4. Again, by this point, I've built them up so much that it doesn't really matter. I'm only using one counter-affecting hit per turn, basically. So, and yeah, obviously, if you guys are trying to do this similarly, and you have, you know, another foreteller in that spot instead, or you have, I don't know, I guess a single target medal if you have, you know, Valiform Genie maybe, or anything single target, or, like I said, Riku vs Roxas, that would be even better. Yeah, then we use Prime Roxas, same thing again, just high damage AoE right now, trying to get rid of the shadows as quickly as possible. This friggin' Riku, man, is incredible. Attack boost 7 max, SP gauge 0, and ground and extra attack. It's such a friggin' good medal. That is something I should point out as well. I was using Kairi initially. Sorry, when I wasn't using Kairi, it was very difficult in terms of gauges, so I had to be very mindful of that. Using low cost medals that also potentially could restore gauges. Like I said, my illustrated Roxas right there has an attack boost max SP 0 skill on it as well to give me back 3 gauges instead of also consuming 6, which is really good. And the Riku as well. The Riku was really good. The Riku basically gives you back 3 gauges every time you cast it because of the skill put on it. Really good stuff. Anyway, he's going to hit you back. That hit is no way to tank it whatsoever. That attack recharges at you and then the waterfall comes up underneath. You can see on the second turn here, sorry, I'm jumping ahead. There's no point tanking that one, but you can tank the next one, so we'll explain that as we get going. Again, Era there, dealing next to no damage whatsoever. Kairi coming in, and again, dealing that really respectable 2 million damage. I did not expect that whatsoever. Lexaeus coming in, really solid damage yet again. If you have random target medals, at this point, once you've cleared out the AoE stuff, they're effectively the same as single target. So, you know, far away, basically. And yeah, like I said before, we've built up the blue counter by now, where we can afford, you know, 1, possibly even 2 hits that drain from the counter, because, you know, every other medal is adding to it, so it doesn't really matter. And then going in again with Riku. Riku just absolutely chopping up. This does so much damage. Solid Snake CG, thank you very much for letting me borrow this medal. It's just enormous. Okay, now we have to get sort of lucky here. Okay, so you see when the water droplets drop from the sky, they deal 3 hits. In my experience, you have to obviously be, you know, at or close to full health. And they have the potential, they have quite high critical hit ratio. If, again, in my experience, if 2 of those crit, it's over. But if you have, you know, either defense boost skills, you know, defense boost 3 max, defense boost 4 max, or defense boost 5 or 6, if only 1 of them crits, or 0 of them crit, then you get away with living that hit without second chance, which is awesome. So, again, we're going to fire away one more time. If you don't kill him by the end of the 3rd turn, then he's going to do that really, really big attack again. But if you tank the 3rd hit, tank the 2nd hit rather, then you free up second chance to use second chance on the untankable hit. So if you do need to tank the 2nd one, that's fine, as long as you get away with that and then preserve your second chance at the 3rd turn. Obviously keep an eye on that timer. I'm running towards the 2-minute 30 seconds mark, and obviously I have to do it within 3 minutes to complete the challenge, but very, very fortunately here I do get away with it and take him out just in the nick of time with effectively 1 hit on Riku left. I'm able to take him out. So I was pretty friggin' happy as a free-to-play player to go ahead and actually take this thing down. I was pretty happy with that result. The idea behind the channel is not to condemn people to pay for the game. The idea is that if I can do this, hopefully anyone else can. And now I know traits and PvP have pretty well put that, I don't know, made that statement maybe less true than in the past, because it's very, very luck dependent now. Extra attack and ground can really, on the right medal, can really set your whole game on fire. You know, you can advance that much further in PvP rather, and get that many better tickets, for example, and just set yourself on a much better path. And obviously I've been playing this game since the European Australian launch, so yeah. Again, if you want to put money into the game, if you want to get certain VIPs, I do, you know, sometimes I recommend that. Sometimes I would like to do that myself, you know. So I don't know, what I'm trying to say is if you can't get to this point, I wouldn't feel bad. 13, like stage 13 and even some of the ones before that were extremely difficult, but if you can get as far as you can, get to, you know, round 9, round 10, round 11 maybe, get as many jewels out as possible, you know, and get 4 out of the 5,000 free jewels, that's amazing. That's really, really good stuff. You know, hold on to them, spend them intelligently, and seriously, you can do really, really a lot in this game. You know, I know a lot of people want to throw around that it's, you know, pay to win, and it's definitely pay to win to get to the very, very upper echelons, of course, but I don't know, I was pretty impressed that a free-to-play player could get this far in this round. Anyway, thanks so much, guys. I'll stop my rambling right now. Again, if you need any advice, as always, jump on the Discord, or I guess it's much easier on the Discord because you can post screenshots of your setup, where you can't really do that on YouTube. But we have a whole team on there that are just amazing people willing to help you out. I really am thankful to everyone that's able to help out. That's really the sense of community that I wanted to build on this channel. So thanks so much, guys. I really appreciate it. Good luck as always, and yeah, I'll see you guys soon. All the best. Bye.